From future TV stars in early roles to studios that rejected a now cult classic, Sugar Hill harbors secrets that will surprise even die-hard 90s crime drama fans. This Wesley Snipes vehicle contains bizarre continuity errors, surprising casting choices, and production stories that prove making this Harlem crime epic was almost as dramatic as the film itself. Fact 1. 6 major studios rejected the script before Sugar Hill ever made it to theaters. In 1993, the film's script went through a brutal rejection process that would have crushed most projects before they even started. Writer Barry Michael Cooper, fresh off his success with New Jack City, shopped his gritty Harlem crime drama to every major studio in Hollywood, and one by one, they all turned him down. Warner Brothers passed on it. Miramax wasn't interested. MGM said no. Paramount declined. Universal walked away. TriStar also rejected it. The reason these 6 major studios gave for passing was consistent across the board. The content was simply too bleak and too dark for mainstream audiences. Studio executives felt that a story about 2 brothers trapped in the violent drug trade of Harlem with no clear heroes and an ending that offered little hope or redemption wouldn't connect with moviegoers who expected more traditional narratives. The script didn't fit neatly into the action genre, nor did it offer the kind of escapism that studios believed would sell tickets. After facing rejection after rejection, the project finally found a home at Beacon Communications, a smaller independent production company that was willing to take a chance on Cooper's uncompromising vision. Beacon saw value in the authentic portrayal of Harlem street life and the moral complexity of characters who weren't simply good or evil, but caught in impossible situations. Without Beacon's willingness to greenlight a project that major studios deemed too risky, Sugar Hill would have never been made, and Wesley Snipes would have missed out on one of his most challenging dramatic roles. The irony is that the very darkness and bleakness that scared off the big studios is exactly what gave Sugar Hill its raw power and authenticity. Fact 2. The film was originally titled Harlem. When Barry Michael Cooper first wrote the screenplay that would eventually become Sugar Hill, he gave it a much more direct and geographically specific title. The original name of the film was simply Harlem, named after the iconic New York City neighborhood where the entire story takes place. This straightforward title made perfect sense, given that the neighborhood itself functions almost like a character in the film, with its streets, culture, and history deeply embedded in every scene. Cooper wanted audiences to immediately understand that this wasn't just a generic crime drama set in any city, but a story that could only happen in Harlem, with all of its specific cultural richness and social struggles. However, somewhere during the development and pre-production process, the decision was made to change the title to Sugar Hill, which refers to a specific historic district within Harlem that was once home to wealthy African Americans during the Harlem Renaissance. The name Sugar Hill carries its own significance and irony as it represents the heights of success and prosperity that the main characters are desperately trying to reach while being pulled down by the drug trade. The title change also helped distinguish the film from other Harlem set movies and gave it a more poetic, layered meaning. While Harlem would have been clear and direct, Sugar Hill suggests both aspiration and the bittersweet reality of trying to escape a life of crime. The new title also avoided potential confusion with other Harlem-centered films and gave the movie its own distinct identity, even though it remained deeply rooted in the neighborhood's culture and struggles throughout every frame. Fact 3. Donald Faison made an early appearance before Clueless fame. Years before, Donald Faison became a household name as the lovable Turk on the hit medical comedy Scrubs, and even before he charmed audiences as Murray in the cult classic film Clueless, he appeared in Sugar Hill in a role that couldn't have been more different from his later comedic work. Faison was only 18 years old when he took on the role of Kaimi, a young character caught up in the dangerous world of Harlem's drug trade. This was one of Faison's earliest film roles, and it placed him in a gritty, violent crime drama alongside established actors like Wesley Snipes and Michael Wright. The contrast between Kaimi and the characters Faison would later become famous for playing is striking. In Sugar Hill, there are no laughs, no lighthearted moments, just the harsh reality of young people trapped in cycles of violence and poverty. Faison filmed Sugar Hill in late 1992 and early 1993, and just 2 years later, he would appear in Clueless as Murray, the laid-back boyfriend of Dion, delivering the iconic line, "Woman, lend me $5." That role would change his career trajectory completely, leading to years of comedy work and eventually his starring role on Scrubs, which ran for 9 seasons and made him a beloved television star. Looking back at Sugar Hill now, it's almost surreal to see baby-faced Faison in such a dark and serious film, knowing how his career would pivot toward comedy. It serves as a reminder that many actors start out taking whatever roles they can get before finding their true calling or being typecast in a particular genre. Fact 4. Dule Hill played young Wesley Snipes in his film debut. Sugar Hill marked the very first film appearance of Dule Hill, who would go on to become a television icon through his roles as Charlie Young on The West Wing and Sean Spencer's best friend, Gus, on the detective comedy Psych. Hill was only 17 years old and still in his senior year of high school when he was cast to play the teenage version of Wesley Snipes' character, Romello Scuggs, in flashback sequences. For a young actor still finishing up his education, landing a role in a major studio film alongside one of Hollywood's biggest stars must have been both thrilling and intimidating. Hill had to capture the essence of Snipes' character as a younger man, showing the early experiences and decisions that would shape Romello into the conflicted drug dealer audiences see in the present-day storyline. This required Hill to study Snipes' mannerisms, speech patterns, and emotional depth, then translate them into a younger, less hardened version of the same person. The casting of Hill proved to be inspired as he brought a vulnerability and innocence to young Romello that made the character's eventual descent into the drug trade even more tragic. After Sugar Hill, Hill continued to build his career steadily, eventually landing his breakthrough television role on The West Wing in 1999, where he played the body man to Martin Sheen's President Bartlett for 6 seasons. His work on that show earned him critical acclaim and opened doors to more opportunities, including his long-running starring role on Psych. Looking back, Sugar Hill represents the humble beginning of a successful career, and it's fascinating to see Hill and Snipes share the same character across different timelines in the film. Fact 5. Wesley Snipes received his biggest payday. Yet, by the time Wesley Snipes signed on to star in Sugar Hill, he had already established himself as a major action star, with films like New Jack City, White Men Can't Jump, and Passenger 57 under his belt. However, Sugar Hill represented a significant milestone in his career for one particular reason: his salary. Snipes was paid $2.5 million to take on the lead role of Romello Scuggs, which was the largest paycheck he had received up to that point in his career. This substantial payday reflected his rising star power in Hollywood and the industry's recognition that he could carry a film on his own shoulders. The $2.5 million salary also demonstrated that the producers and Beacon Communications believed strongly in Snipes' ability to bring depth and complexity to a character who wasn't a traditional hero or action star, but rather a morally compromised drug dealer trying to find a way out of the life he'd built. This was a departure from some of his previous roles that relied more heavily on action sequences and physical prowess, and the significant investment showed that the filmmakers trusted Snipes to deliver a nuanced, dramatic performance. The salary also set a new benchmark for Snipes' future negotiations, establishing him as a top-tier actor who commanded serious money. In the years following Sugar Hill, Snipes would go on to earn even larger paychecks, particularly for the Blade trilogy. But Sugar Hill marked the moment when he crossed into the upper echelon of Hollywood earners. It proved that he wasn't just an action star or a supporting player, but a leading man who could anchor serious dramatic projects and attract major financial backing. Fact 6. The disappearing braid. Continuity error. Even professional film productions with experienced crews can fall victim to continuity errors, and Sugar Hill contains one particularly noticeable mistake that eagle-eyed viewers have spotted over the years. During crucial scenes where the brothers Romello and Rainathan discuss leaving the drug trade behind, Rainathan's distinctive forehead braid mysteriously appears and disappears multiple times between different camera shots. This type of error typically happens when scenes are filmed out of sequence or over multiple days, and the hair and makeup department doesn't maintain perfect consistency in how an actor's hair is styled. In Rainathan's case, his forehead braid becomes a bizarre magic trick, vanishing in one angle and reappearing in the next, which can be quite distracting once you notice it. Continuity errors like this are more common in film production than most viewers realize, but they usually get caught and corrected during the editing process. The fact that this particular mistake made it into the final cut suggests that either the editors didn't notice it, or they decided that the performances in those takes were strong enough that reshooting wasn't worth the time and expense. The disappearing braid error has become something of a fun Easter egg for fans who re-watch the film and pay close attention to the details. It's a reminder that filmmaking is an incredibly complex process involving hundreds of people, multiple camera angles, and countless takes. And sometimes small details slip through the cracks. While it doesn't ruin the film by any means, it does pull some viewers out of the emotional intensity of the scenes, especially during moments that are supposed to be dramatically powerful and emotionally raw between the two brothers. Fact 7. Part of Barry Michael Cooper's Harlem trilogy, writer Barry Michael Cooper didn't just create Sugar Hill as a standalone film. It was actually the second installment in what would become known as his Harlem trilogy, a connected series of films exploring different aspects of black urban life in New York City during the early 1990s. The trilogy began with New Jack City in 1991, which starred Wesley Snipes as the ruthless drug lord Nino Brown and became a massive commercial and cultural success. Cooper wrote the screenplay for that film, which examined the crack epidemic's devastating impact on urban communities and the rise of violent drug empires. After New Jack City's success, Cooper followed up with Sugar Hill in 1993, which took a more intimate and character-driven approach to similar themes, focusing on two brothers trying to escape the drug trade rather than glorifying it. The final piece of the trilogy came with Above the Rim, released in 1994, which shifted focus to basketball culture in Harlem and how young athletes navigate the dangerous influence of street life and crime. What makes this trilogy significant is that Cooper created 3 distinct films that each approached urban black life from different angles while maintaining thematic connections about ambition, survival, morality, and the American dream. Unlike traditional film trilogies that follow the same characters across multiple movies, Cooper's Harlem trilogy used different stories and characters to paint a broader portrait of a community facing systemic challenges. The trilogy established Cooper as one of the most important voices in early 90s black cinema, even though Sugar Hill didn't achieve the same commercial success as New Jack City. Together, these 3 films represent a powerful artistic statement about urban America during a specific historical moment. Fact 8. The film underperformed, despite a strong opening. When Sugar Hill opened in theaters in February of 1993, it actually started with what looked like promising numbers at the box office. The film pulled in $5.7 million during its opening weekend, which suggested that audiences were interested in seeing Wesley Snipes in another gritty urban drama following his success in New Jack City. However, that initial interest didn't translate into sustained box office performance. The film experienced a sharp drop-off in subsequent weeks, and by the time it finished its theatrical run, Sugar Hill had only grossed $18.2 million domestically. With a production budget of $10 million, this meant the film technically made back its budget and earned a modest profit before marketing costs were factored in, but it was still considered commercially disappointing by industry standards. Studios typically hope for films to earn at least 2 to 3 times their production budget to be considered successful when all expenses are included, and Sugar Hill fell well short of that benchmark. Several factors likely contributed to the film's underperformance. The dark and bleak tone that scared off major studios during development probably also kept away mainstream audiences who expected more action-oriented entertainment from a Wesley Snipes vehicle. Additionally, the film received mixed to negative reviews from critics, which didn't help build positive word of mouth. The timing of the release may have also been a factor, as audiences might have felt they'd already seen this type of story in New Jack City 2 years earlier. Despite its financial disappointment, Sugar Hill has gained a cult following over the years among fans who appreciate its authentic portrayal of Harlem and its unflinching examination of the moral costs of the drug trade. Fact 9. Terence Blanchard's jazz score divided audiences. One of the most distinctive and controversial elements of Sugar Hill wasn't the acting, the story, or the direction, but rather the musical score, composed by Terence Blanchard. Blanchard, a renowned jazz trumpeter and composer who had collaborated frequently with director Spike Lee on films like Jungle Fever and Malcolm X, brought his signature jazz sound to Sugar Hill with a prominent trumpet-heavy score that permeates nearly every scene. While some viewers and critics appreciated the authentic jazz flavor that connected the film to Harlem's rich musical heritage, others found Blanchard's score to be overwhelming, repetitive, and at times distracting from the drama unfolding on screen. The criticism centered on the fact that the trumpet seems to constantly wail and cry throughout the film, sometimes drowning out dialogue or undercutting tense moments that might have been more powerful with silence or more subtle musical accompaniment. Some viewers felt that the score was too insistent, always telling the audience how to feel, rather than letting the performances and cinematography speak for themselves. Others argued that the repetitive nature of certain musical themes became tiresome over the film's 2-hour runtime. However, defenders of Blanchard's work pointed out that the mournful, melancholic trumpet perfectly captures the tragic trajectory of the main characters and serves as a kind of Greek chorus commenting on the action. The jazz score also roots the film firmly in Harlem's cultural identity, as jazz has been central to the neighborhood's history since the Harlem Renaissance. Whether you love it or hate it, there's no denying that Blanchard's score makes Sugar Hill a unique viewing experience that sounds completely different from other crime dramas of the era, for better or worse. Fact 10. It has a shockingly low Rotten Tomatoes score. In the modern era of film criticism, Rotten Tomatoes has become the go-to aggregator for measuring critical consensus on movies, and Sugar Hill's score on the site reveals just how poorly the film was received by professional critics upon its release. The film currently holds a 20% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 10 reviews, which places it firmly in the rotten category. This shockingly low score seems almost incomprehensible when you consider that the film stars Wesley Snipes at the absolute peak of his popularity and features strong performances from the entire cast, including Michael Wright as Rainathan. The critical rejection of Sugar Hill was based on several common complaints that appeared across multiple reviews. Many critics felt the film was derivative of New Jack City and didn't bring anything new to the urban crime drama genre. Others criticized the pacing as slow and the narrative as unfocused, arguing that director Leon Ichazo failed to build sufficient tension or create compelling momentum. Some reviewers took issue with the film's bleak worldview and lack of redemption for its characters, finding the ending unsatisfying and depressing. The cinematography and visual style also came under fire from critics who felt the film looked flat and uninspired compared to other crime dramas of the era. However, it's worth noting that critical opinion and audience reception don't always align, and over the years, Sugar Hill has developed a devoted following among fans who appreciate its authenticity and moral complexity. The low Rotten Tomatoes score represents the initial critical response, but doesn't tell the whole story of how the film has been reevaluated and appreciated by viewers who discovered it later on home video and streaming platforms. Fact 11. Abe Vigoda returned to mob boss roots. The casting of Abe Vigoda as Gus Molino in Sugar Hill represented a fascinating return to the type of role that first made him famous in Hollywood. Vigoda had become an icon playing Sal Tessio in The Godfather back in 1972, a role that defined his career and established him as one of cinema's most memorable mob characters. Tessio was one of the Kappa regimes in the Corleone crime family, and Vigoda's understated, dignified performance in that film created an indelible impression despite his limited screen time. More than 20 years later, Vigoda returned to similar territory in Sugar Hill, playing Gus Molino, an Italian mob boss who represents the old guard of organized crime, now dealing with the new generation of black drug dealers who have taken over the streets. The casting was inspired because Vigoda brought all of that Godfather gravitas and authentic mob boss energy to the role, even though he was playing a much smaller part in a very different kind of crime film. By 1993, Vigoda had become better known to younger audiences for his comedic role as Detective Phil Fish on the sitcom Barney Miller, which ran from 1975 to 1982. Seeing him play a serious mob boss again reminded viewers of his dramatic chops and his ability to convey menace and authority with minimal dialogue. Vigoda's presence in Sugar Hill also created an interesting generational and cultural bridge in the film, connecting the old Italian mafia world with the new African-American drug trade that had largely replaced it in cities like New York. His scenes carry extra weight because of who he is and what he represents in the history of mob films. Fact 12. The movie was shot entirely in New York. Sugar Hill's authenticity and gritty realism owe much to the decision to shoot the entire film on location in New York City rather than on sound stages or in other cities doubling for New York. Principal photography took place exclusively in the 5 boroughs from November 9, 1992 through January 22, 1993, which meant the cast and crew were working through some of the coldest and most challenging weather conditions of the year. Filming during late autumn and winter in New York added to the bleak, harsh atmosphere of the film, with gray skies and cold streets becoming part of the visual texture. The production made extensive use of real Harlem locations, shooting on actual streets in real buildings and capturing the neighborhood as it truly existed in the early 90s. This commitment to authenticity gave the film a documentary-like quality that would have been impossible to achieve on a Hollywood backlot or in another city. The decision to shoot entirely on location also presented significant logistical challenges for the production team, including dealing with unpredictable weather, securing permits for street closures, managing crowds of curious onlookers, and maintaining control over the visual continuity when filming in uncontrolled environments. However, these challenges paid off in creating a film that feels genuinely rooted in its setting, where every frame communicates that this story could only happen in this specific place. The Harlem locations aren't just backdrops, but essential elements of the narrative, reflecting the community, culture, and social realities that shape the characters' lives and choices. The production's commitment to New York locations also provided employment opportunities for local crews and gave the film an insider's perspective on Harlem that outsiders couldn't have captured. Fact 13. 2 future stars made the same film. One of the most remarkable aspects of Sugar Hill when viewed through the lens of hindsight is that it featured not just 1, but 2 actors who would go on to become major television stars years later. Both Donald Faison and Dule Hill appeared in this single film during the early stages of their careers, years before either one would become a household name on the small screen. Faison played Kaimi while Hill portrayed the young version of Wesley Snipes' character in flashback scenes, and both were essentially unknown actors at the time, just trying to build their resumes and gain experience. What makes this even more interesting is that both actors would eventually find their greatest success in television rather than film, with Faison starring on Scrubs from 2001 to 2010, and Hill headlining Psych from 2006 to 2014. Neither actor could have predicted while filming Sugar Hill in the harsh New York winter of 1992 that they would both end up as the stars of long-running, beloved television series. The fact that they shared screen time in this gritty crime drama before either achieved fame creates a unique connection between them, even though they played completely different characters with no scenes together. It's also worth noting that both actors successfully transitioned from dramatic roles in Sugar Hill to primarily comedic work in their later careers, showing their range and versatility. For fans of Scrubs or Psych who discover Sugar Hill, seeing their favorite comedic actors in such serious, intense roles is jarring and fascinating, offering a glimpse of what might have been if their careers had taken a different direction. Fact 14. It was deemed least commercially viable Snipes film. When Sugar Hill was released in February of 1993, the influential entertainment trade publication Variety ran a review that included one of the most damning assessments a studio film can receive. The review described Sugar Hill as the least commercially viable Wesley Snipes entry since he hit the big time, which was essentially a prediction that the film would struggle to find an audience and make money at the box office. This harsh judgment proved accurate, as the film underperformed commercially despite Snipes' star power. What made this assessment particularly stinging was the reasoning behind it. Variety noted that Sugar Hill occupied an awkward middle ground between art film and action movie, failing to fully commit to either approach and therefore satisfying neither audience. The film was too slow and contemplative for action fans who wanted to see Wesley Snipes kicking butt and taking names like he did in Passenger 57. At the same time, it wasn't quite sophisticated or artistically ambitious enough to appeal to the art house crowd that might have embraced a more experimental approach to the material. This positioning between two different types of cinema left Sugar Hill without a clear target audience, which is often a recipe for commercial failure. The film's bleak tone and lack of redemptive or uplifting moments also worked against it in the marketplace, as general audiences typically prefer stories that offer at least some hope or catharsis. Variety's assessment highlighted the challenge that many films face when they try to blend commercial and artistic sensibilities without fully committing to either approach, resulting in a final product that doesn't quite work for anyone. Fact 15. The soundtrack featured underground hip-hop gems. While Terence Blanchard's jazz score dominated the film's musical landscape, the Sugar Hill soundtrack also featured some truly remarkable and unusual hip-hop selections that set it apart from other soundtracks of the era. Most notably, the soundtrack included Park Bench People by Freestyle Fellowship, an underground Los Angeles hip-hop group known for their experimental, jazz-influenced approach to rap and their incredibly complex, multi-syllabic rhyme schemes. Freestyle Fellowship was far from a mainstream act in 1993, and their inclusion on the soundtrack represented a bold choice that prioritized artistic credibility over commercial appeal. The group was part of the Project Blowed scene in Los Angeles, an underground hip-hop workshop that produced some of the most innovative and technically skilled MCs of the 90s, though they remained largely unknown to mainstream audiences. The soundtrack also featured tracks from other underground and alternative hip-hop artists, creating a unique blend of jazz instrumentation and progressive hip-hop that was rarely heard in mainstream films at the time. Most crime drama soundtracks of the early 90s featured either established rap stars like Ice Cube or Dr. Dre, or they commissioned new tracks from popular artists specifically for the film. Sugar Hill took a different approach by incorporating music from artists who were critically respected within hip-hop circles but had minimal commercial success or mainstream recognition. This decision aligned with the film's overall commitment to authenticity and its willingness to take risks, rather than playing it safe with more obvious musical choices that might have helped sell more soundtrack albums.